Welcome to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we discuss coaching perspectives, beliefs, and techniques. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. In episode 11, we meet up with Mark Niemann of Inside the Circle. In part 1, he talks how the preview started as a magazine and evolved to the whiteboard predictions. His positive energy and coverage of Central Ohio is unmatched. Go check out Inside the Circle on YouTube, and you won't disagree. Here we are, Coach Mark Niemann, I guess former coach, Niemann, a.k.a. Cruiser, a.k.a. half of Inside the Circle, right? How you doing today, Mark? How you doing?
Hey, I'm fantastic. My sidekick partner in crime told me, hey, listen, I don't know if I'll be able to get it on there. So I didn't want to stress him out. So it's just me flying solo today, representing Inside the Circle. Watch the show. And I'm really excited, man. I've watched probably I've watched all the episodes that have aired except one, because I think it came out either last night or this morning, and I was busy watching Metcalf this morning.
I watched that last night. That was great, wasn't it?
So it's a 32-minute clip, I think, and I'll get back to more of what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But at 24 minutes, I tweeted something out about, dude, he's skateboarding. He's talking about Sega Genesis. He's riding BMX bikes. I'm like, this dude is my spirit animal. And then it starts talking about and so I tweeted something out. And then it gets to where his brother passed away.
Darker,
the flip script. No, wait, the script flipped, and my emotions went from high to low, and I'm like, oh, Flo, you did it again. I shouldn't have sent that tweet out. So I backed that tweet up with something else. So
yeah, that was I don't think I think a lot of people are surprised. Obviously,
he's
not who you thought, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'll tell you what. It's interesting to listen to how he responded or he reacted when he found out his brother was growing the marijuana,
right?
And he
at that young of an age, right? At that young of an age to realize that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so he realized maybe that wasn't the best way to handle it. But then when you saw at the end, his boy dry fired that bow, which is a no-no, but his kid didn't know that. And Brent was walking down range, a double no-no. But you listen to Brent, and he says, hey, son, listen, I'm teaching you a lesson right now. Dude, I'm telling you, man, when they show the person side of these monsters, it is, I love it. Like Brands, he's dropping his daughter off to gymnastics. He goes, hey, sweetie, I love you. And I'm just like, oh,
wait, what? Yeah.
Oh, man.
How cool was it though that the Schladers were in there too, that from our Ohio tie. Yeah. You know what I mean? That had
my gosh,
battles, man. Those are some awesome matches.
I would love nothing more than to tell my story about the Schlader Metcalf Medina. I would love, but let's get there.
Okay, I'll mark it down so we get back to it. But
good.
So you ever listen to Nicola, right? Obviously, we'll have some between there. But Nicola, yeah, that's a good one.
Can't wait.
A good one. So give us a little rundown, for those who living under a rock that don't know you.
Yeah. I'll tell you where it all started. I will. I'll actually tell you where it started. A lot like Brent Metcalf. If you haven't seen the Flow doc, he's a little brother, and we suffer from little brother syndrome, which is two-part. Number one, we're always the punching bag. So that's just part one. But then the second part is, if your brother wanted to take up jacks, he wanted to be a killer jacks player, all of a sudden you would become the second best jacks player on the planet. Tiddlywinks. It didn't matter what it was. In my brother's case, I went from the football field. I remember this vividly one time. I went from a football field to a tennis court and played baseball that night. And all three of those, it was because I had an 8 o'clock football game that I was able to play tennis at noon and play baseball at 4. So that was my life growing up, mainly because my brother was into all those things, but also just because I liked it too, but I also liked it in my brother. But all those things were great, man. You played football, and then you played baseball, you played tennis. I was actually on the swim team. There's probably 5 other sports that I'm forgetting right now. Wow. So I was constantly involved, and you would think all of that running around would run the energy out of me, but it didn't. All it did was amplify it. So as a kid, I was a part of this. And then my brother was in 6th grade, and we were in little local football, and the wrestling people knew what they were doing. There were 4 people that knew exactly what they were doing. Listen, if you're playing in this football league, if you want to be a better football player, you need to wrestle. Well, this is probably our last year playing football. Well, what else? What other sports are you going to play? Simple. We're going to play baseball. Oh, got it. You want to be a better baseball player? You need to wrestle. Well, actually, we might just get involved in something else. Great. You want to be better in something else? You need to wrestle. So they were adamant about handing out these flyers. Well, my mom and dad were sitting there. They grabbed a flyer up. My brother grabbed a hold of it in the back seat, and he started reading. He said, "Dad, I want to do this. I would love nothing more than to wear a mask, pointy shoes, and a cape, and then jump off a top rope somewhere." He was so misguided, but it led us down a path that we just really enjoyed the sport. There were elements of the sport that we really enjoyed, and I'm sure it's true for everyone who gets involved in the sport. But that the part we loved started to grow, and for me, it grew to where I am now, as far as inside the circle. But when we were in 4th and 6th grade, you got to know this. People used to come from miles and states around to be part of the Little Cruiser Wrestling Tournament. I think we were one of the first people to give away 6-foot trophies, and they needed that thing, which it's probably broken down by now. It's thrown away.
Nobody knows where it is
but
now.
At that time, it was the biggest thing. I mean, we had there was some cat from down on the border, Ohio Valley area. I want to say it was one of the Tucker boys. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was one of the Tucker boys. They used to bring some kids from West Virginia.
You're talking about Martin's Ferry Tucker guys, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. And so they would come up. They would come up. Kids from Michigan would come up. I remember I got my butt beat by Brent Zupanzik, who his younger brother ended up playing. I think he either got first or second, right?
Zach Zupanzik, you talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got first. I think he beat one of the Vaughns from Watkins Memorial. But all that to say, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know what North Akron Wrestling Club is. Where is that in Bexley? Is that in Central, on the other side of Columbus? Like, where are these people coming from? This tournament had like 500 people. I honestly believe, there's a part of me that honestly believes it was the precursor for the Tournament of Champions. Like somebody with a business mind said, hey.
So Bart probably seen that, and then he turned what he called the Super Tournament was first, right? It wasn't Tournament of Champions. It was called the Super Tournament. That was Bart's first tournament. It was at Bexley, and he called it the Super Tournament or something. Then it turned.
You happen to know the year of that?
First year of TOC, I want to say was around 94.
Oh, 75. Brother, man, I'm telling you, I am.
Okay, so yeah, it was probably. Go ahead, go on.
I was gonna say, I'm telling you, he has sort of a business acumen. What we did inside the halls of Groveport Madison was I bet, I don't even know if we had fire codes back then, because I'm here to tell you they broke everyone.
Yeah.
We had 2 mats in the cafeteria, 1 in the commons area, and it's not that big of a high school.
And that's what the first TOC had. They had mats in the cafeteria.
Right on.
Up in the wrestling room, up at one of the Dublins, the first one.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, and we had 4 mats in the gym, and the mats, and so they separated them. If you were in the cafeteria, you were just a little kid, man, just a tot. I think we called it tot, bantam, tots.
Right.
And we taped the mat into force, and you wrestled. You had 4 matches going on that small
quarter of a mat, right?
Oh my God, there were so many people there, Jared. It was out of control. So there was a lot of energy, and so I'm attracted to energy. So if you've got energy, I want to be around it because I need more. And people are saying, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, yeah, I really do. So that happened, and so then, and all while that was going on, our middle school had beaten Walnut Springs, is where Luke Fickle was, and Mike Fickle, who was an All-American for Penn, good himself. It was a Westerville school, and we were able to defeat them and end their streak of like 5 years of dual meet, which who cares now? I mean, honestly.
Right. But in the moment,
at the time, it was larger than life. Like, it was like, hey, we don't get a parade through the city streets? Like, what's going on? We just beat them. But I don't know. I was living in a pipe dream. Anywho, so that Little Cruiser tournament's going on. Our middle school is absolutely rocking and rolling. We have a high school tournament called the Southside Shootout, where 70 sort of cuts the city in half, and 71 goes north and south. So it was a bunch of teams from south of 70 that were invited to Groveport. It's called the Southside Shootout, and it was a phenomenal tournament. And I think St. Ed's freshman team was there, if the story is correct. St. Ed's freshman team came, and Groveport beat them. The next day, they got a phone call. The coach said, hey, our freshman team would like to duel your freshman team. And I'm 99% positive they dueled, and I think Groveport won that duel.
Wow.
And so it was just like, what is going on in Groveport Madison that this is happening? Well, fast forward to my freshman year, the coach there, he's in a terrible situation as far as his marriage, and like he just can't keep it going. At the end of freshman year, he's like, look, I got to get out. We had Russell T. Fronapple come up, who Rex Fronapple was a 3-time state qualifier. I think he might have placed in the OVAC a couple times. Todd Fronapple and then Josh Fronapple we had a squad, and I mean a squad, my freshman year. Really good team. And I started wrestling varsity against Kevin Cleveland. My first match, I had people coming from the woodworks telling me straight up, Mark, listen, we're wrestling. And I'm looking at them like, I don't know who you are. I don't care if you don't know who I am. You cannot get pinned in this dual meet. It's number 2 versus number 3, Dublin versus Groveport. It's the biggest thing in the city. Actually, of a newspaper, the newspaper came, the Columbus Dispatch, and took a picture of our coach in the face of the Dublin coach, and they put it on the front page, not on the front page of the sports page, or the front page of the Dispatch. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind at this time. Well, the wheels sort of fell off after Coach Nevergall bounced, and it was just like, and we just couldn't seem to get it back. And we had good teams, don't get me wrong, but we just never really matched our potential. And I tell you that, I had 3 coaches in 4 years, and as great of motivator as Mr. Nevergall was, Coach Nevergall, he was not necessarily technically sound. And I only say that in context of what I know today. Right. Because when I stepped in, my 2002 and 2003 to the junior high level, man, I had no clue what I was doing. It wasn't until 2007, I went to a Jordan wrestling camp, and I show up, and I'm like, okay, we're going to go to a camp. I've been to 1,000 camps before. I know what happens here. No, that was totally different. And I learned a head inside single. I said, this is it. When I look back on my coaching career, my life changed because of that right there.
And you were at the camp as a coach. Just
yeah.
So people don't, if people don't know your age, I know how, where you
fall. A lot of that happened. So I should go back to my high school career real quick. I'm a 4-time sectional qualifier. So I actually qualified for the district tournament my junior year, but I don't like to say that only because every time I meet someone, it seems like you're now a state champ, where 2 years ago you were only a state qualifier or state placer. Like, what happened? How did you get better? Well, as time goes, everybody gets better. I said, no, not this guy. I'm going to go in reverse. So now I'm just a 4-time sectional qualifier. And, it's one of those things where it's just like, why did I ever say that? But now it's stuck, and it's just like, whatever. So fast forward, I graduate, I join the United States Army, I come back, and life is crazy. We have a really good high school team, but the coach has already stated, listen, when my son graduates in 2004, I'm out. My brother got in for the 2004-2005 season, 2004-05. And but he knew he was going to take that job. So he told me, Mark, you have to get in.
And this is at Groveport Madison, correct?
Yeah, at Groveport Madison. You got to get into the junior high. This way, but when I take over, our kids know what we need. Right. I was like, man, I can do that. I can do that. This is great. So at that time, I found out that this thing called JJ Huddle existed.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, oh, watch out now. JJ Huddle is a forum, and I mean, obviously.
For those that don't know, it's like Yappy now, for those that don't know.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, JJ Huddle is the modern, Yappy is the modern day JJ Huddle. And, I got on there, and I was learning about events. I was learning about people. They were putting out rankings. I was like, whoa, like, dude, this used to happen in the Dispatch now. And not only are they writing their name, they're sort of giving like write-ups on what happened. Like, hey, this number 2 guy actually beat the number 3 and number 5 guy at a tournament, so that's why he's number 2. I'm like, what tournament was that? So in the threads, you can go find that tournament. And I'm just like, where are the brackets for this? Oh, this is amazing. So all this, and I'm at college right now. I've got this deal where I show up at 7 a.m. for a class. I show up at 8 a.m. for a class, and then I don't have another class till like 1 or 2. I'm like, what kind of schedule was I picking? So I did this. And we were on semesters back then, and we were on quarters back then. Okay. And I did the entire first quarter, and I'm sucked right into JJ Huddle. My 9 to 5. That's not true. Not my 9 to 5. My 9 to like.
Your 9 to 1:30.
Yeah. My 9. No, because I enjoyed doing some of the work for college, but there was a significant amount of time I spent, and I was just researching like crazy. And so fast forward, I'm now.
Where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to college?
I went to, when I got out of the Army, they told me, hey, it's best to just slow down, take your time, go into a community college.
Slow down.
Right into
you slow down?
What's that?
You slow down?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, and I thought about it. It's actually not a bad idea. Take a class with 500 people at Ohio State, or take a class with 30 people at Columbus State. And I was like, I think I'll take the class at Columbus State. And so I did that for 2 years, and it actually paid off great because the schedule was good because I could coach and I could really manipulate my schedule in such a way that I could do those things. At Ohio State, it's like, no, you want to take the class, take it right here. We're not budging for you. We're not offering more classes. So it was good. And then I actually enrolled into Ohio State. Gosh, when would that have been? 2006, maybe. And so I enrolled in Ohio State in 2006. And I remember that because my brother needed help in 2006-07.
Okay.
And that was the first class that I had in 2002-03. So it was kind of cool that it worked that way. He was like, Mark, I can't be the only coach up here. I was like, no problem. So, and it really worked because I found out that through JJ Huddle, there was this camp called the Jeff Jordan State Champ Camp. So I show up and, we said we're going to a team camp. We had 6 kids. We had 4 junior high kids and 3 high school kids. So we show up there, and then all of a sudden he busts out this head inside single. I'm like, what was that? And then he builds off the head inside single. And then he builds off the thing he just built off of from the head inside single. I'm like, dude, this is out of control. This is an entire system. What is this? Well, I mean, when I was a kid, it was just like, hey, look, man, if a double leg don't work harder, you better run faster. You better run through them faster. So, I mean, I guess it's like that philosophy. People talk about the Oklahoma State philosophy and the Iowa philosophy. Iowa says, if it's not working, do it harder. If Oklahoma State is not working, then you need to change it. So, and I guess I was sort of that Iowa school when I was growing up. But, man, when that came out, it was like, whoa. So
that was before YouTube and Flow, too. So, I mean, you're seeing the system wow.
I actually interviewed Martin on the floor in 2009 or 10. Actually, Scott Nicola, Brian's brother, we were on the floor. And I don't even know why Scott was there, to be honest with you. But he interviews Martin, and he's asking him questions. And Martin's, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. He's like, this is what we want to do. And I'm just sitting there like, this guy's out of control. So, oh my gosh, there's so much to like get to, but here we are. We're fast forwarding. We're getting to 2012, 2013, and I'm now coaching. I'm implementing a system, and we had 4 kids last 4 years on our high school team. Every team goes through attrition, and this is a wrestling philosophy show. If you haven't listened to Shawn Andrews, Drew Lashaway talk, you need to go listen to those guys. Because they're going to talk about, I can show technique all day long. If you don't stop and say, hey, what's your name? Where are you from? If you don't build a relationship with that kid, the likelihood of him lasting 4 years is probably small, especially if things get going tough. But I know this as a freshman, I wasn't about to let down my coach. It's just not how it goes. You don't do that. You don't do that. You don't let down your coach. So if they tell you need to, keep it to a tech fall or a major, that's what we do. So it was one of those deals where I'm in there in 2013, 14. We've got these 4 kids who lasted 4 years, and we called them, and we're Groveport Madison Cruisers. We called them the 4 Horsemen, and because they made it. But that year they actually led the team, and I loved what I saw. We had 5 kids make the district tournament, and we had 5 more kids that were alternates. They placed 5th in the sectional tournament, so they were alternates. So that day on that Friday when we had to get out early to go to the district tournament, we had 10 kids on the bus. And I'm looking at my brother. I'm like, Pat, bro, seriously, when was the last time we put 10 kids on the bus for the district tournament? He was like, Mark, I can't tell you that. It's got to be since, 1991 or 1992 when Wild Bill was leading the charge. They had 4 state qualifiers that year. So, and we talk about success. We were talking, I think, in the beginning of the show, we were talking about success. And I mean, I'm here to tell you, those kids making the district tournament was a huge success. And they send me text messages now. The things we did every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we did a 25-minute circuit, which was basically 4 6-minute matches. That's all we did. But we did 45, 50 seconds on, 10 seconds to get to the next station. And we just ran, did it constantly. So, I mean, crazy stuff, crazy nonsense
that was,
going on.
Your state finals, right? We were talking about earlier.
Now, 2 things. Number 1. During that time that we were doing those circuits, a lot of times, sometimes before practice, but sometimes during those circuits, we would show this video. It was called The Third Day. Will Knight produced it. I actually met him. I think I went up to Hank's
his episode will be released here
Hank
shortly.
Kornblatt, who owns a deli in Cleveland. I drove 2.5 hours for lunch. I met Will Wright there. I gave him like $150 for 3 of those videos. I said, I want them. I want them all. I would watch that thing till the cows come home. I mean, it is such a great story. In it, Jesse Lang is sitting there and he's talking, and the way that it was produced was so good. He's talking about how he's getting ready. He got orders as a Marine to go overseas. He's like, but I got the Big Ten wrestling tournament coming up. There's like 1,000 things going on. And then it shows his ankle, like, you know, your ankle is normally supposed to bend like this. It like bends like this. It's completely fried. Like the scene cuts and he's sitting inside this, the training room, and he's getting it taped. He's like, I cannot walk on this, whatever the scenario is. And like the scene cuts, and then you hear this overdub. It was that moment that Jesse Lang would not qualify for the national tournament. He was later called to be a Marine and something. It was just like, man, that was intense. So go back to 2010, and I'm looking at the Dispatch. And this is not to disparage the Columbus Dispatch. They have a job to do, and I get that. I'm looking at the Dispatch, and I'm trying to figure out what tournaments are coming up, what teams are good, and what wrestlers are making noise in the local area.
Okay. I
couldn't find it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, man, this is so frustrating. When I was a kid, man, it was always in the newspaper. Every Thursday, you knew exactly what was going to come out. So it was actually 2008 or 9 when I was like looking around, just getting frustrated. I go up to Erie, PA. It was right around football time. And there's this 112-page, fully dedicated to high school football. It's got every team broken down by conference. So pages 1 through 8 were the 18 conference. Okay. Pages 9 through 16 were the other conference with that 8 teams. And every page had who the coach was, pool quotes, the top 3 guys on offense, top 3 guys on defense. And I'm looking at this thinking to myself, this has got to happen. This has to happen. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't get paid to do that. I was, working a 9 to 5, and I'm scrounging like crazy. I just got introduced to the iPad. So, okay. This shows you how, when I started going to college, I took an online course. They gave you a disc. You had to put it in and listen and then do these tests.
Right,
Dude,
right.
I failed that thing so miserably. It was out of control. Anywho, so I get this iPad, and I realized that you can type and create documents. I know this is like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And I start creating a lot like this podcast. You start doing something, and then you want to add something. And by the time the 5th, 7th, or 10th episode gets going, you're night and day from that first
from this, right, right.
And so by the time I got to like the 27th page, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I had fully gone all in on this thing. I said, I'm going to organize this in a much better way. So it's actually on our website now.
I've seen that,
blast from the past or whatever. It is a document. It's just a running document. It's got a cover page. It's got the table of contents, and then it breaks into, it's got pictures in there. It's got little tiny, editor's notes about the pictures, like who it is and what they're doing in that particular time. It was such a large undertaking. So I do that, and I show up to the fall coaches meeting, and I put one on every table. I printed them out. I stapled them. I put them out there, and people, you're sitting back watching, and people are flipping through and like, oh, this is great. Oh, this is cool. So I was like, oh, this is good. This has got good traction. 2 things happened. Number 1, I'll tell you the negative first. This kid walks up to me, and it was a team that I just overlooked. I don't know what happened. I think I overlooked the entire conference. And he comes up to me and says, hey, what's up? You didn't even put our conference in there, bro. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And he's like, our team, our whole conference, not in there. What's up with that? What, you don't like us? I'm like, no, dude, it was a complete oversight. And I felt like my entire world was crumbling at my feet. Like, just like, I didn't mean to do that. And he's coming at me with some negativity, and I just couldn't handle it, man. I was like falling apart. I got into my car. I was probably borderline crying. And I'm just like, I don't want to overlook anyone. I don't want to slight anyone. I just want to promote what we have in the Central District. That's all I wanted to do. Why would he take it that way? So through the last 10 years, I've gotten a little more calloused. I've gotten a little more better. What? Are you an English teacher? I've gotten better at handling some negativity. But that was the first thing that happened. The second was my sidekick, Shawn, he was actually helping us at Groveport. He used to be a coach at Grove City in the Grove City system at the middle school. He was actually a state qualifier back in 1991, maybe, for Franklin Heights, a Central District team. Their team was really good, and I mean really good. They were number 2 in the area, number 1 in the area for like 3 or 4 years. Tom Falk, I think his brother was at Bluffton. I think they were.
Josh was my brother's age. His
son
was a state champ also. Yep. I see him at the Van Buren tournament every year. He's there.
Boom.
Yes. Go ahead.
So Shawn comes to me and says, hey, I want to help out at Groveport Madison. Not a problem. We can use the help. So he helps out. So he sees me staple these things together and put them out. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I made this little handout that people can get a better understanding of some teams. So the team that won their conference got a full page, but then the rest sort of got cut down into small little snippets. And I did this huge write-up for Mount Vernon. John Brown's in there. I did a huge write-up for Pick Central. There's a lot going on in there. So he's like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. Let me think. Give me some time to think. About 2 months later, he comes back to me as if we had never left the conversation. And he says, hey, I figured it out. I was like, what, your locker combination from 7th grade? What did you figure out? Fibonacci's code? Talk to me. What are you talking about? He goes, here's what I want to do. I want to record, and this was right around the time Zeb was coming on strong, who was episode number 3. Zeb is coming on strong. Flow Wrestling is coming on strong. He says, here's what I want to do. I want to put a bracket on a whiteboard, and I want to write their names in, and I want to walk through and tell the story for each weight class. I was like, that's crazy. I love it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we had a whiteboard in our wrestling room, and so the first ever whiteboard predictions, it was so raw, 0 energy, very matter of fact. We stood there, and I remember this. It's gone now. It was on the Go Ohio's website, and when Zeb switched over.
Did you check with him? He has a lot in hard drives and stuff. Did you check with him?
No, I didn't do hard drives back then. I had
because you had the raw footage. That's right.
Yeah, I had the raw footage, and so as a content creator, I could upload that stuff. It was like
I remember that. Yes, you were uploading some good stuff.
Dude, I'm losing my mind. I'm like, I can tape matches and upload them and people can watch them. This is insane. So I listen to Shawn's input and I say, I think we can do this. Well, he doesn't talk to me about what his plans are necessarily. I mean, he tells me, this is what we want to do.
So at this point, did you call it Inside the Circle or when?
Yeah, I think, yes, because that first stapled copy at the very top, it was called Inside the Circle.
So from day one, huh? So for our listeners that don't know.
From day one. And Shawn, to his credit, always, and it's so kind of him, he always says, no, this is Mark's brainchild. I just love what he's doing and I want to be a part of it. And I'm just thinking, Shawn, you are such a part of this, Shawn. You have no clue. And I'll give you a great example of what I mean by that. And this will sort of bleed into where we go next.
Okay.
Shawn Wright, when I asked him, I said, hey, Shawn, we've been invited to a podcast. You can be a part of it. You don't have to be a part of it. I don't care. I'm just letting you know what the deal is. He goes, brother, I'm not thrilled about it. I don't hate the idea. I don't know if that's where my time is best spent. I said, what do you mean? What are you doing, man? He goes, well, I'm writing the intro for the first episode. I'm like, dude, it's August. It's September. What are you talking about? He goes, yeah, this is what I do. And, I should have known. He went to JO's. His research never stops. Okay. He's constantly texting, calling, email. I don't think he emails because he doesn't know how to use a computer, but he'll go out to lunch with coaches and he's constantly investing time to try to get a good picture of the overall Central District. So when you come when I come and I say, hey man, I really like Marysville's returners or Upper Arlington's returners. They've got 8 returners, man. That's huge. He goes, yeah, but did you think about this? I'm like, no. Yeah, they're going to finish 8th in the district this year. Wow. I'm like, really? I thought they'd be a lot better than that. He goes, Mark, trust me, 8th. So, and then they finished.
So you compliment each other real well with.
Oh yeah. I have no clue what I'm talking about. He actually knows what he's talking about. So it really works well. But, so we do this episode and when we do it, it was so funny. It's gained a lot of traction since that first one. And let's fast forward to maybe 5 years in or 6 years in. And Shakur Laney was a wrestler for ours. It might have been, no, that was the first year. I take that back. It was the first year. And he had a tough opponent in Luke Nace. Luke Nace obviously was good. He's a good a Central District. He's a good statewide wrestler. He actually wrestled at OU. So he was a good wrestler. And aside from that, he was a terrible matchup for Shakur. I do not know what happened this year at the district tournament, but Shawn picked Luke Nace to beat Shakur. And he had already beaten him like 2 or 3 times before that. So when Shawn picks Nace, I wrote Laney's name on the line. He goes, hey, what are you doing? Because I was Laney's coach.
Right.
I'm like, I can't put anybody else's name but Laney. I believe he's going to win. I believe with every ounce of my being he's going to win. And I know Luke Nace. I know Todd Nace. I know all these guys. So I'm thinking, listen, I cannot, in good faith, tell my kid he's going to lose here and then try to coach him in the corner. It's not going to work. I'm not putting anyone else's name there. Mm-hmm. He goes, Mark, you have to put Nace's name. So I said, screw it. That's on you, though. So I raced it. At the district tournament, Shakur Laney beat him. I was like, dude, I was freaking going nuts. I was in the top of the balcony I was going crazy. I was going crazy. So anywho, we, around 5 or 6 years in, we start doing it. It's starting to gain a lot of traction. And somebody sends me a private message or a DM or an email maybe. And they're like, hey, when does Division II come out? And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. Aside from the amount of time and energy, and when I mean time and energy, we go to Medina. Chad Gilmore is the man. He lets us sit very close mat side and tape.
Chad's awesome. Chad is awesome.
But dude, Chad is an amazing individual. Mm-hmm. So he allows us to do the research that we need to do that whole second day of Medina. We're just sitting up there doing all kinds of brackets. We're talking to coaches. Hey, I saw this kid lost 7-4. Can you walk us through the match there? And they'll tell us, and we'll write those notes down. Shawn will write them down. He'll make a middle note of it. So when we do the show, we factor that in.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there, but people don't realize we go to Medina. We stay the night at Medina. We drive straight from there, go to Brecksville. We love it when it's a 3-day event.
Right.
Medina day 1, and then overlaps day 1 and day 2, and then we go to Brecksville. We go to Ironman. We get a hotel. Why do you go to Ironman? Because there's Central District teams there. Mm-hmm. That's why we go to Ironman. We go to Brecksville. We go to all these tournaments. We go to Kevin Cleveland. We go to all these tournaments, not because they're close, but because our kids are wrestling. And when we say our kids, they're Central District kids.
Right, I got you.
They're wrestling. So there's a lot of time and energy. So all that time and energy that had really started in June during JOs comes all the way around, and then we tape. We do Inside the Circle, and we tape the whiteboard predictions. Each weight class takes anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. Now, I'm not real good at math, but if I took 30 minutes and multiplied it by 16, I would probably come up with 480 minutes. Now, again, I'm not good at math, but that's 8 hours.
It's a lot.
If we didn't have to use a restroom, didn't have to, stretch and write down our script, that's 8 hours straight. The actual taping takes somewhere between 10 and 12 hours. I tell you all of that to tell you this. When that person sent me that message, dude, I thought I was going to die. Mm-hmm. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. We've got to do D2 now?
So
that can't happen.
So if you had unlimited time, unlimited budget, let's just say, perfect world, what would Inside the Circle look like?
That is a great question. Honestly, this is the honest God's truth. And I'm thinking, since we're in a virtual setting right now, I think, so I don't know what the season's going to look like.
Right.
But here's what I'd like to do in light of the season. I think I would like to sort of talk to ADs and superintendents and athletic directors and coaches and say, listen, we can only do duals, tries, and 2x4s or quads. The regular Joe can't come in. Mm-hmm. Can we stream this event underneath the guise of Inside the Circle? This way it can get out to the masses. Now, how do I monetize that? I don't know, and nor do I really care. Because
you should watch the episode with Brian Nicola. He might.
I can't wait.
He might give you a little insight.
I haven't watched it yet. I was too busy watching Metcalf.
He might give you some insight how you can monetize that and what platform to use. Because he's a journalism guy, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, so that's part of it. So there's 2 parts to this. Number 1, I would do the streaming. But number 2, and this came about because my son is not in a traditional high school. He's at a technical school. Okay. So his junior and senior year, and part of what he's doing is graphic and digital design. Awesome. And part of that, one of those veins inside that is photography. Mm-hmm. I said, son, it would be absolutely awesome if you tagged along with me and took pictures. And then going back to that first magazine, we did write-ups that we sort of had. We had a website. Mm-hmm. We put these write-ups, page write-up that talked about the events, and we had pictures involved in that. Because mean, there's cameras that can do a whole lot more than my iPhone can.
Right.
So, I mean, you can get close shots. And I think that would be really cool because, again, back in my day, the Dispatch did that. And I'm not about to disparage them. And I'm also not going to disparage
But you want to thank them, really, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because they set me up to want that, right?
Right.
And this week, we have local news that are called This Week. And I don't know if they're affiliated with the Dispatch, but man, I'm here to tell you, those guys work tirelessly. They cover every sport, and they're probably just the sports guy. But man, so anytime the This Week news on Inside the Circle's Twitter handle put something out, I will retweet it. I don't care if it's about softball. I don't care if it's about figure skating. I don't care tiddlywinks. Right. I don't care. I'm going to, because those guys, man, they work 9 to 5. I remember getting text messages or maybe private messages through Twitter at 5 a.m. when I was coaching at Westland. I coached 1 year at Westland, and the guy was like, "Hey, where you guys going this week?" I'm like, "Bro, the sun isn't even up yet. You do not need to be up right now." "No, I'm writing a story, man. This is good stuff." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And then when you finally read it, you're like, this is great stuff, man. So those guys work tirelessly, and Inside the Circle, unlimited budget, unlimited. I think that would be a lot of it. So my wife and I built a brand new house, and in the basement, it's sort of like half and half. And on the one side, I made a man cave, but I also put a whiteboard.
Nice.
And I put a green screen. I put the ability for a green screen. So now we can, instead of going to, a local high school, an old wrestling room or a classroom or our church classroom or something, we can just come to my house and we'll have lunch, and then we'll do our class. And while we're having lunch, we'll talk about the storylines and all that jazz.
That's awesome.
Man, there's so much involved with it, though. People just don't realize. And here's the other thing we do is Inside the Circle. And I don't think people realize this either. I'll get to two things. Number one, we do a weekly episode. We try to do a weekly episode. Sometimes there's no content, not as much content that we feel is just like we can't take time away from our family. Here's a great example.
It's not a full episode, right?
Yeah. So Shawn one time calls me up and he's like, "Hey, is there any way we can do from 1 to 2 today?" I'm like, "Yeah, we'll do whatever you want, man." I said, so when he got there, I was like, "What's the need that we have to be from 1 to 2? We'll shoot this episode real quick and you can go." He goes, "Well, my son's birthday party's today." I said, "Your son's birthday is today?" He's like, yeah. I'm like, "Shawn, don't come. Don't do that. Don't." And it's just one of those deals where it's not that we have to, and it's not that we feel that we have to. It's truly that we want to. And this is the second point I'm going to make, is I just wish that coaches would understand, and somebody tweeted this out, not to assume positive. I promise you, we will never let you down. I did not mean to slight whoever it was that I slighted that first year. And I remember going to my car and I felt like Tom Ryan, just grabbing onto things and crying. Like, I didn't mean to let you down. I did not mean to do that. That's not what I meant to do. So nowadays we've gotten a little more traction, and I don't want to say it attracts haters, but I don't mind if we put a name on the line and the mom comes up to him and says, "Hey, you didn't pick my son. Hey, but thanks for doing what you do."
They don't realize how much time. Zeb was talking to Stalemates up here, and he was like, he asked, Zeb, "You do rankings?" Like, are you kidding me? Do you know how much time that is? Like, and you're doing this for their kids, right?
Yeah,
you're doing it for, and they're mad at you because you're doing it for their kids, right?
Because we didn't pick their kid to win,
right?
And it's only happened a few times,
right?
With true negative, true negativity, it's only happened a few times. The vast majority of the time, the parents are very appreciative for the time that we put in. Right. They'll send emails. They'll just send all kinds. They'll get involved in the end of the year. We do this thing called a pick'ems contest, where every year we have 50 to 60 people in this thing. And, it's so funny. If I didn't know who was picking, I would know who was picking, because it's obvious what team you represent.
Right.
This kid is he's 12-9 and he got to the district tournament and you got him winning against a 2-time state champ. Come on now. So, but those people come up to us and again, there's only been a few haters.
Right.
And so I've learned to deal with that a little better.
You're going to have that whenever you do.
I know. And I know. So
welcome to my world of the OAC stuff, man.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. But the people that come up to us and they're like, "Hey, we really appreciate the work that you do, the time that you put in, and it's awesome. We thank you for that. Next time, pick my kid." I can roll with that any day of the week because they get it. They get it, and we understand. And, we actually had to put out a disclaimer 3 years ago. It was, "I don't hate your kid. I really don't. I want your kid to win. and we started calling it the Prove Us Wrong campaign.
Mm-hmm.
If your kid proves us wrong, we'll be the one in the corner cheering. Like, oh, that's an upset. Yeah. Yes. Right. Like we don't care. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, it's so, and and I really do. And this is honest to goodness right here. When we do our weekly podcast, our video YouTube channel, we'll get 300-400 views, and that's good. I love that. And so I appreciate the people who watch, and then they see us at the next event, and they'll say something, some offhanded comment that I made or Shawn made, and they'll bring it back up, and it's just, it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But the D2 and D3 people, it's just one of those deals where, look, man, you guys are so far spread out that we can't get to your events like you think we can get to the D1s, where it's us moving heaven and earth just to get to the D1.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't feel bad necessarily, but in some ways I do, because
you're realistic. You're realistic though, but
yeah, exactly. Because my plate's only so big. My time can only be cut so much. Mm-hmm. So, and then I've got to grade papers, put it into the grade book, mm-hmm. So it's like, but when the D2 and D3 guys come to us, it's just like, oh, we had a 2-time state champion Hudson jump. This kid is a freak of nature from Grandview Heights. Mm-hmm. We were unable to get to an event where he was. And when I look back, that's the kind of kid that needed coverage. Not needed it in the sense that I could give it.
But you wanted to show him off from the Central District, right?
Dude, he's from the Central District. And I'm if I could get a camera with a wide enough angle lens, this way his shoulders would fit into it. Like, this kid was a specimen of all specimens. He's just an amazing young man. And we just couldn't work it in, for whatever reason, hey, we're doing it this week. Well, we can't do it this week because we got X, Y, or Z. It's like, daggone it, man.
Right.
Damn. So, you just got to roll with the punches. And I would go back to the assume positive. Just assume that we're trying the best we can to be the kindest people on earth. And, I think in some ways we have a lot of love, but it oftentimes, and I don't mind, that it doesn't get publicized. Mm-hmm. And recently we went to somebody did a fund, Olentangy Orange. They did a fundraiser, and I drove up to Olentangy, and you think, well, if you don't know where Columbus or Pataskala is compared to Olentangy, who cares? Well, when you find out it's a 45-minute ride, or 40-minute ride, you start to think, wow, that's a long way to go to give somebody money for a car wash. Mm-hmm. But that's not what it's about. It's about showing up and saying, hey, I recognize this kid. I recognize that kid. Hey, coach, how you doing today?
Right.
This way, when they see you and you ask the question, hey, I realize that you came up on the short end of the stick that time, but we're doing an interview here, and I want to know what do you think you missed in that aspect? And I just wasn't aggressive enough. Instead of, who are you to come up to me and ask me after a loss what just happened? Because there's no relationship there. Mm-hmm. But if you show up to their car wash or their bake sale or do whatever, it's like, hey, who the heck is this guy? Mm-hmm. Hey, look, man, you're a Central District wrestler. I care about you. That's the bottom line. At the end of the day, that is the bottom line. And although you might not be able to handle that, trust me when I say I can handle that. So, gosh, you got me all fired up, Jared.
No, that's crazy. So no coffee. You don't do coffee, huh?
No, I've never had a sip. Never had a sip.
Just don't like the flavor, or you just go nuts?
No.
So here's a question I have for you then. When what you're a road warrior, right? When you go to the gas station, what do you get at the road trip?
Sunflower seeds are my go-to.
Okay.
I love sunflower seeds. In 2007-8, I grew my own sunflowers.
Oh, no, yeah, same here. It's so funny. I moved into the city, but we used to be out in the country. Had some awesome sunflowers.
So I had 4 or 5 sunflower plants, and I harvested them. I looked up how to harvest them. Mm-hmm. I did it. I roasted them. I salted them. Oh, I'm sorry. You boil them in salt water, and then you roast them. And that's what I did. I let them cool. And I'm telling you, they were the best sunflowers I've ever had. The only problem, the reason I didn't keep doing it, the problem was that it was like a 50-50. It was basically Russian roulette. Sometimes I'd go through all the work to crack the shell, and there'd be no seed.
Right. And they're little, ones I have, they're like more rounded. I don't know if I got the right sunflowers but they're more rounded. Yeah. And they're not them long, oblong shapes. So now, you're right.
Quick, the longer ones are a little easier to crack.
Right.
And I had a chipped tooth. I honestly believe it's because of 20 years of just eating sunflower seeds. Man, I'm telling you, man, my left side of my jaw, I call it Operation Raw Jaw. When the spring comes around, that's it. I'm eating sunflower seeds. My wife cannot stand when I eat sunflower seeds. Can't stand it because but so I don't eat them around. Huh? What's that?
So that's your road fuel. It's your
Oh, no. I got more fuel. Hold on. I like when I buy the Frito-Lay sleeves, 2 for $1. I think they're actually $1.09 now.
Right.
I'll get a Nutrageous, king size Nutrageous. Oh, that's the real deal. Now they have the Take 5. Oh, that's good stuff right there. But yeah, no, it's just, it truly is earlier I said that we got into it because there was something about wrestling that we really enjoy. But as we get older, that's what we love sort of
multiplies.
Yeah, it sure does. And it's not that the idea of one-on-one is still there. That never left. If you want to change something, change it. So that's still there. But a layer outside of that is the and I attribute this to Tommy Rollins, the merits of the sport. The idea of one-on-one is here. Then the merits of the sport, discipline, sacrifice, commitment, all these things transcend the sport. They go on to life. Like I'm a teacher. Right. There's days that teaching isn't the greatest, but man, it's so rewarding if you just get through that time. Marriage, same thing. Guess what? I love me. My wife, not every day.
Every day.
She might not love me every day. Right. Maybe she does. I don't know. But my point is, but we made the commitment, sweetie. You said I do. I said I do. And we're going to get through this just like when I had to learn the single leg and my coach just stood there and said, nope, not right. It. No. So, hey, we're going to keep working. I'm going to try to improve myself. You're going to try to improve, and we're going to talk through this. So the merits of the sport also are awesome. But then when you get to the community, man, we have some, and this is why I love your podcast. And this isn't blowing smoke. I'm just telling you, when Shawn Andrews speaks, I want to listen. When Drew Lashaway speaks, I want to listen. When Coach Malave speaks, I want to listen. When all those people are having conversations, I want to listen. Jeff Jordan started sending out this Wednesday wisdom.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
My wife's like,
who's not going to listen to him, right?
Exactly.
You're a fool if you don't.
No, exactly. 100%. Mark, why does it take you 30 to 35 minutes to use the restroom? Sweetie, Jeff Jordan was talking. Yeah, but your legs are asleep. Yeah, I know they are. But
it's worth it.
Jordan was speaking.
It's worth it.
What don't you get about this?
Oh, that's awesome. That's funny. That's good stuff.
And that's sort of, and so that community aspect through the years, I cannot tell you. And, like my buddy Cale Sanderson said, number one, don't name drop, Mark. Nobody likes that. No, I'm just kidding. I've never met Cale. I'm just kidding. But I have met a lot of people that, like, if you met them in a mall, like you're paying for something and you're like, it's $16.99. I thought the sign said $12.99. I only got $15. Like, oh, I got it. Here's $5, man. Right. Like, they're just the greatest people in the world. Right. They're amazingly giving, amazingly caring. And I know we see the worst of it on Twitter and social media and stuff like that. But the people I've come in contact with, the people that send text message or, little things here and there, they're just amazing people that would give just about anything for you. Right. And I know for a fact that the coaches, at least where I am, and I'm sure, listening to Drew Lashaway talk, Coach Malave talk, they'll do anything for you. Right. They really will. The problem is so often that we don't have the target to accept that arrow. Like they're shooting an arrow of, listen, I'm willing to give my time, but we don't have a big enough target that allows
to accept it. Right.
Our inability to accept that. I don't know what that is psychologically. If you can figure that out, that's great. Yeah. But some people are so quick to push off any type of help.
Well, I think it's human nature, right? To kind of worry and be defensive. Like talking to Wrestling Mindset. I don't know what episode, probably 11 or so will be, but that's in our human nature to kind of worry and stress. We're hunter and gatherers, all that stuff for years, and we were primed in our mind, right, to be worrying. But no, that the show, thanks for the shout out on Shawn and Drew and Malave. Those are the pleasure of Coach Malave coming in. I would bring a coach at St. Mary's, and I brought him in last year, and he went above and beyond. He brought a couple of guys with them, and they did this practice, and it was just he went above and beyond, and it's just good people. And obviously I've been blessed with Shawn and Drew, known them for a long time. It's like those are the type of people I'm on the show and hear their approach, and just the wrestling community is awesome, right?
You mentioned that they go above and beyond. At some point, people going above and beyond becomes the norm, and we have to outdo ourselves. But no one ever does. No one ever falls. I'll say this: we just had Colin Palmer runs a a club within 30 miles of my house. And my son wanted to be involved. I said, son, that's fine. We'll go and we'll be involved, but you have to walk away getting better. That's the bottom line. Because I'm telling you that the things he's going to ask you to do are going to be very difficult. You have to be willing to do them. And so we go, and my son got better, and I loved it. It was great. And when you think that he's done everything that you expected him to do, he like, all right, now we want to do this. And it's like, what is this? So he brings in Cliff Fretwell for a scramble camp.
Cliff is awesome.
A testament. And that guy is great.
He's awesome. Right. I brought him in 2 years ago. Yeah. He's up in
Cleveland right now at, I think, the Wrestling Factory.
At Lake Catholic. Yeah.
Okay. You're right. You're absolutely right. Lake Catholic. And you know what I said in my brain? Okay, today's Friday.
How long does it take? Round trip, right?
But I'm going to OU, Ohio University's golf outing this Saturday.
Look
so
at
I can't go.
Man.
I know, it sucks. So, but Cliff, he brought up Cliff, and Colin's point was, guys, I don't know everything there is to know about scrambling. I've got enough to be dangerous, but there's a system involved.
I'm going to bring the guy
I wanted to bring that system to you. Yeah. So he brought up Cliff, and I'm just thinking to myself, he did not have to do that. It's Colin freaking Palmer. You could just say, hey, these are the 3 moves that we're going to do. And I've been like, oh, that was cool that he showed that. But that's not what he did. He said, no, I'm bringing in the expert and an expert, and you're going to learn from him. And man, I tell you what, I told my son, I said, listen, if he's bringing up Cliff, you're going to go to it, because you have a natural tendency to, rather than start with baseline defense, you have a natural tendency to try to grab a leg and pass. So you're going to get better at that. Man, I'm telling you, man, my son really took to it like a fish to water, and I loved what I saw. And Cliff is a great guy.
He's a great guy. He has a way of connecting with the kids. We have a heavyweight. I'm not going to –
heavyweight.
Couldn't do much, okay?
Yeah.
And he had him doing Granby's and all these rolls, and I had a video and sent it to everybody. Like, look what – if this isn't a testament of what kind of – clinician and coach and how he connects with kids, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like, what is going on? And it was like within 5 minutes, it's just crazy. And so yeah, we've had him up. I try to get him, this summer and fall.
He's probably pretty full of schedule. Yeah.
Right. No, he sent me his calendar. I'm like, man, and he was coming to was going to, Palmer's and going to Lake Catholic. I was like, man, I can't have you come back. I'm sure people would come, but it's like, and then he was going to be, he had a tournament last weekend.
Yes.
I mean, in the outdoor.
Hey, you should have fired off. You should have fired off a text message or an email that says, why do you hate me?
Yeah, no.
No, don't do that. That's too much negativity. No. I've learned that hate is too much of a burden to bear.
No, definitely.
I love that quote.
No. So
come on, bring it.
Inside the Circle, where can they find you? We're not wrapping up. I just want people that don't know.
Yeah. Inside the Circle, mainly Twitter. That's our main go-to. We do have a YouTube channel. If you just type in Mark Shawn ITC, that's normally how I get to it. So I don't think Shawn's ever been on it, so he couldn't tell you how to get to the YouTube channel.
He's not the computer guy?
No, not at all. So we do have a website, but we didn't buy domain rights. So it's this real long address, but we link it when we get to Twitter. We have a Facebook fan page.